The cold night air surrounded Lena Carter as she stood beside the weathered pine tree near the abandoned logging road. Her flashlight illuminated the faded carving hidden beneath years of moss and bark. She carefully brushed away the dirt. The first initials appeared. Demise. Bay. Demise. Clara Bennett. Lena's heart raced. She had already found Clara's rusted camera lens cap only a few yards away. Now she was looking at Clara's initials carved into the same area. As she cleared away more bark, another set of initials slowly appeared beside them. A. B. Lena frowned. Who was E.B.? None of the police reports, newspaper articles, or witness interviews mentioned anyone with those initials. She photographed the carving from every angle before marking its location. Just then, a sharp crack echoed from deeper inside the forest. Lena quickly turned her flashlight toward the trees. Nothing, only darkness. Not wanting to stay any longer, she returned to her car, convinced that whoever E.B. was, they had been connected to Clara. The next morning, Lena returned to the Pine Hollow Inn to speak with Victor Shaw. The elderly innkeeper was arranging flowers near the entrance when he saw her. "You went back," he said quietly. "I found something." Lena handed him a photograph of the carving. Victor stared at it. His expression immediately changed. "C.B.," he whispered. Then his eyes moved to the second initials. A.B. His hands trembled. "You recognize them," Lena said. Victor quickly placed the photograph back on the counter. "When people stop asking questions, it's usually because they're tired," he said. "In Pine Hollow, they stopped asking because they were afraid." "Afraid of who?" Lena asked. Victor glanced toward the front windows before lowering his voice. "If you want to understand Clara's last day," he paused, "start with her last conversation," before Lena could ask another question. Guests entered the inn. Victor immediately ended the conversation. An hour later, Lena arrived at the home of Clara Bennett. Although 23 years had passed, Sarah still lived just outside Pine Hollow. The walls of her home were covered with Clara's photographs of forests, rivers, wildlife, and mountain sunsets. "People remember my sister because she disappeared," Sarah said sadly. "I remember her because she loved these mountains." After sitting at the kitchen table, Lena placed 2 photographs in front of Sarah. The rusted lens cap, the carved initials. Sarah gently touched the picture of the lens cap. "Clara carved her initials into all of her camera equipment," she whispered. Then she looked at the second photograph. The color drained from her face. "You've seen E.B. before," Lena said. Sarah remained silent for several seconds before quietly answering. "I never thought anyone would find that." Lena leaned forward. "Who is E.B.?" Sarah slowly shook her head. "You're asking the wrong question." "What do you mean? The real question isn't who E.B. is." She looked back at the photograph. "It's why Clara never wanted anyone in Pine Hollow to know about E.B." Lena felt the investigation take a completely new direction. Every report she had read suddenly seemed incomplete. She looked at Sarah. "I need you to tell me everything you remember about your last conversation with Clara." Sarah took a deep breath. "For 23 years, I've kept part of that conversation to myself." She looked toward the mountains outside the window. "I think it's finally time someone heard the whole truth." Sarah Bennett stood quietly beside the kitchen window, staring toward the mountains surrounding Pine Hollow. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I've repeated the same story for 23 years, she said, "but it was never the whole conversation." Lena leaned forward. "What really happened?" Sarah returned to the table. When Clara called, she sounded happy. She had found the perfect place to photograph the sunset. That part was true. Lena nodded. But then she laughed and said, "You were right. I finally found it." Lena quickly wrote the words down. "Did she tell you what she had found?" Sarah shook her head. I asked, but she only said, "I'll explain everything tonight. You're never going to believe it." Lena felt her pulse quicken. That sentence had never appeared in the police reports. What happened after that? Sarah took a slow breath. There was a long pause. I could hear the wind. Then Clara suddenly whispered, "They're here." "They're here?" Lena repeated. I asked who she meant, but she never answered. A few seconds later, she simply said, I have to go. I'll see you at dinner. Then the call ended. Sarah lowered her eyes. The investigators kept asking if Clara sounded confused or frightened. She didn't. She sounded excited. Eventually, I stopped correcting them because they had already decided she had wandered into the forest alone. Lena quietly closed her notebook. Maybe the investigation had gone in the wrong direction from the very beginning. Later that afternoon, Lena returned to the Pine Hollow Inn. Victor Shaw was sitting alone on the front porch, watching storm clouds gather over the mountains. You spoke with Sarah, he said. Lena nodded and placed the photograph of the carved initials beside him. Victor's expression changed the moment he saw it. C.B., he whispered. Then his eyes moved to the second initials. A.B. So you know what they mean, Lena said. Victor remained silent before finally answering. I found that tree the morning Clara's truck was discovered. Lena stared at him. You never reported it? I should have. Why didn't you? Victor looked toward the forest. Because I believed staying quiet would protect the town. Protect it from what? He shook his head. I've been asking myself that for 23 years. Lena pressed again. Who is E.B.? Victor met her eyes. I've seen those initials before. Where? I'm not ready to answer that. His voice became serious. If you're asking about E.B., you're asking questions someone never wanted anyone to ask. That evening, Lena spread every document across the desk in her room. Police reports, newspaper articles, volunteer lists, old photographs. She searched every name connected to the case. Nothing. Not a single person with the initials E.B. Then one faded newspaper photograph caught her attention. It showed volunteers gathered around Clara's truck on the second day of the search. Lena looked closer. According to the official report, the truck had been found locked with the keys still inside. But in the photograph, the driver's door was already open. Someone had opened it before investigators completed the scene. She turned the newspaper over, searching for the photographer's name. The credit had been cut away, deliberately removed. Just then, her phone rang. The screen showed an unknown number. This is Lena Carter. An older man's voice answered. If you want the truth about Clara, he paused. Stop looking for where she disappeared. Then where should I look? Find out why she went into the forest. The line went dead. Lena immediately tried calling back. The number no longer existed. She slowly looked toward the photographs lying on her desk. One showed Clara's rusted lens cap. The other showed the initials carved into the pine tree. B. Ed. A. B. Someone had hidden the truth for 23 years, and the answers were still waiting somewhere inside the Pine Hollow forest. The narrator spoke one final sentence. Sometimes, the most important evidence isn't what disappears. It's what everyone chooses to ignore.